if you aspire to just be a 6, 7, 8-win program, eventually you're going to become Oregon State and Washington State, and that won't even be attainable for you. You won't have your bowl trip. You won't get to make your trip to Memphis. You won't, that stuff will go away if that's what your aspiration is, because you've got to fight your ass off to prove to the rest of the college football world that aspires for much, much more that you deserve to be at that table. Welcome into another edition of Three Ma. I am John Kurtz, joined by Derek Young and Cole Manbeck. It's the bye week, so a bit of a State of the Union address, State of the Program address for both K-State football and K-State athletics in general, I suppose, here today. It's going to be brought to you by our friends at Holiday Distillery. Thank you for all of their support. Great K-State folks out there who bring you the Ben Holiday bottled in bond bourbon and the 360 vodka, perfect for your tailgates. If you are going to stock up for the Colorado game coming up, or just having watch parties, just chilling by the fireplace, things start to get colder, it's all great. Holiday Distillery, Ben Holiday bottled in bond bourbon. Go check it out and tell them that Three Ma sent you. If you don't have it where you're at, demand that they get it for you because the Three Ma boys told you about it. Okay. Well, we were having the conversation in the live show after the Texas Tech game about where things are in the athletic department right now, where things are at with the football program. There's clearly a lot of frustration, some consternation, I think, about what the big picture outlook is at a really crucial moment in time for K-State athletics and just college athletics in general. So we promised you a full show on that, and here we are. I feel like maybe, Cole, I know you have lots of numbers about football specifically. Maybe that's the better launching point here is contextualize why there is this frustration, because I think some of the tension right now seems to be some of the internal stuff at K-State, some of the internal opinion being hey, this has been a good program. We've accomplished a lot of good things in the Chris Kleiman era. This is, yes, 1 year where it's disappointing and we're below 500, but why are we knee-jerk freaking out the way some seem to be right now, versus the other point being hey, you can actually, you can trace this back to last year. There are some warning signs of just bigger picture, systemic issues right now at a time where you need to be really, really locked in and dialed in because your future is quite literally on the line. It always is right now. And Texas Tech was just such an illuminating game for that because Texas Tech has gone completely all in. That is one place that is pulling in the same direction, everybody in that athletic department. Yes, they have money, but they've been spending it very well, and they just have buy-in from everybody on, hey, we're going to do everything we can to meet this moment and elevate Texas Tech athletics as much as possible. And you saw the difference between the two rosters on the field on Saturday. So, Cole, I'll let you have the stage here to talk about the state of the football program and why the concern level is where it's at.
Well, I think to start, John, it's really ultimately, what do you aspire to be? Do you aspire to have that ceiling and hit the 9-10 win mark and win Big 12 championships? Or are you happy with winning 8 regular season games every year? Because to me, that's where the question lies. Chris Kleiman has been really good at making this program respectable. They're not having a lot of down seasons outside of this season, but they also haven't really hit that upside that they were projected to hit, right? I think a lot of the frustration of Kansas State fans is you win the Big 12 championship in 2022, and then you go 8-4 in the regular season in 2023 when you were picked to finish second in the league. You were picked to finish second in the league in 2024. You go 8-4, you go 5-4 in the Big 12. You went 6-3 the year prior. You're picked. They didn't do a preseason poll officially by the Big 12 this year, right, guys? But a lot of the metrics, the SP plus,
the coaches literally picked them to win the Big 12. Brett McCarthy did a poll.
There you go. So 3-3 in the Big 12 to start this year, 4-5 overall, 14-10 in the Big 12 since 2023. So the year after they win the Big 12 championship, now they're 14-10 in the Big 12. Chris Kleiman's 20-13 overall, 60% or so winning percentage, and yet these other teams have come into the Big 12, guys, with coaches like Kenny Dillingham Joey McGuire, obviously been a part of the Big 12 longer. Kalani Sitake, like you could speak to this, John, but those guys have come in and had more success than what Chris Kleiman has had in a shorter window of time. I mean, Sonny Dykes is 21-11 in the Big 12, has a better winning percentage in league play, obviously driven by that one season, more of an outlier. Joey McGuire, a higher winning percentage in the Big 12 than Chris Kleiman. Kenning Dillingham, same thing. Kalani Sitake. It's frustrating. I've got a lot of numbers on it to kind of cement the point, but I don't want to talk too long here just to start. I just kind of wanted to level set that I think a lot of the frustration stems from the fact that not only you were projected to be 1 or 2 in the Big 12 each of the last 3 seasons, and you finished middle of the pack, but it's also a different Big 12, which we've talked about, and you're struggling in it when you don't have Texas or Oklahoma in this league anymore.
It's tough. Excuse me. It's tough to reconcile since winning the Big 12 in 2022 that you're going to fall short of expectations 3 years in a row. Not a lot of programs or coaches get to, once they get away with that, that's probably not the appropriate phrase, but they wouldn't be absolved of all consequences for doing something of that nature 3 years in a row. So I think that is a significant data point that should not be ignored by anyone. I think the divide between the fan base or administrators, just anyone in the Kansas State universe, so to speak, in that some aren't as upset as others. I think the ones that are on the extreme end of being upset are of that nature. Like 3 years in a row, like one of these, we should have been competing for a Big 12 championship, and that's unacceptable. I think there's also the group, and this is probably more where John fits, to speak for him, is that they are looking at the bigger picture and they realize what could be down the pike and having to set yourself up to meet that moment, because we just saw a few years ago, and I think there's a segment of the fan base and maybe a segment of the administration and donor base that doesn't understand you're always like it in this landscape, a day away, a week away, a month away, year away, whatever it may be, from getting the same treatment that Oregon State and Washington State did. And think about where they are as programs now compared to what they were 10 years ago, because a little bit of bad luck, but also they had the inherent disadvantages of not being a pretty school that the rest of the college sports world enjoyed, right? And not only did they get booted from their leagues as a consequence of that and not being power major schools anymore, they both lost their head coaches that were doing really, really well there, and now are afterthoughts in college football. Heck, they're afterthoughts in college basketball now. They're going to pay the price. Like, everyone's like, well, how, like the money. Well, the alternative is you become what they are, and they don't make any money anymore because and there's probably a lot of people that have lost their jobs because of it.
Well, yeah, that's very true. DY, that's a great point. A lot of people in the athletic department right now should probably be thinking about this, because if that does happen, I've almost said the inevitable. I won't say the inevitable, but if you keep scuffling and you don't make the next cut, yeah, man, a ton of those jobs are going to be gone. Oregon State and Washington State right now literally have to play each other. They're playing at home and home this year in football because they can't fill out the schedule. It's a lot of, G5 teams, and then they're playing at home and home against each other. Does that sound fun? You guys want that? Like you and Iowa State playing at home and home, and it's probably unfair to throw Iowa State in that because they've been doing a much better job. They just have this, I think, similar financial issues and don't seem to have a lot of urgency to fix that, but their coaches are locked in and doing really well right now. It just drives me nuts, man. It feels like nobody has that sense of urgency, because look, if you are fine, if you truly are, you're somebody that's like fine with like, hey, I know how bad this program was. We used to be the worst program in America. If we're winning 7 or 8 games every single year, generally, like, I'm happy with that. I will be content with that. I want to, go to bowl games. Minor bowl games are fine for me. Okay. If you have that mentality and that attitude, totally your prerogative. However, I will say, if that is your mentality and attitude, that's the way you're going to get cut, because the sport right now as a whole does not have that attitude. The college athletic ecosphere does not have that attitude. And if you're not somebody that's striving for more than that, you are very expendable when you're not a big brand. You know, I guess if you were a big brand and you were striving for that, maybe you would have that, but the big brands don't. They want more. And if you're not somebody who is striving for more, you are extremely expendable in this college athletics world. And I know some of the money stuff seems crazy. I get it. I 100% understand that it's jarring. It's not what a lot of people are used to. This fan base can tend to be just, you know, I don't mean conservative from like a political standpoint, but just like conservative in nature, right? Not a place that's going to go jump out and throw a bunch of money and like you want to see results and hard work and all that. I get it. I respect all that. I'm just telling you, you don't have to like it. It doesn't have to fit where you're at, but it is the reality. Like if you aspire to just be a 6, 7, 8 win program, eventually you're going to become Oregon State and Washington State, and that won't even be attainable for you. You won't have your bowl trip. You won't get to make your trip to Memphis. You won't, like, that stuff will go away if that's what your aspiration is, because you've got to fight your ass off to prove to the rest of the college football world that aspires for much, much more that you deserve to be at that table. It's not fair. It's not great, but it is real.
Yeah, it kind of goes back a little bit to the live show that we did last weekend. It just, I'm not even saying who needs to go, or that's I'm not even getting that specific. But what I am saying is, like, the attitude kind of has to change, to John's point.
Oh, yeah, there has to be an attitude change, and I don't know if there will be. Though I would just say, John, to your point, like, Kansas State obviously hasn't spent at the level of Texas Tech on their roster, but Chris Kleiman and his staff had the resources this year to where they should be far better than what they have. I mean, there's been a lot of money invested in this team, and obviously invested poorly for the way that the season worked out. So it's very unfortunate because they were allocated enough resources to be an upper tier Big 12 team, and they failed mightily with that. So they own that. Obviously, it's happened with basketball too, but a lot of dollars have gone to waste over the last couple of years there. Now, the question is, do you take it up a level and try to push for that model at Texas Tech? I mean, that's a question that you can definitely say, but I know we have to take a break so we can get into more of that.
Yeah, they probably aren't equipped to do it at that level, but they are equipped to have pulled the same direction, have the buy-in and the organization level that Texas Tech has.
Well, yeah, that's really the thing. Like, I'm not like overly dismayed about the amount of financial commitment that's been made the last few years. Like that's not really what it is. Now, some of it is looking forward. You need to maintain that. But, one of the things we said in postgame was Jerome Tang totally gets this. Like everything that I'm saying right now, Jerome Tang 100% gets. He understands meet the moment. He understood a couple years ago when he came on our show at Colbert Hills and said, give us the money. There's a window right now where we can win a national championship by utilizing all this money. Texas Tech, all the stuff about Cody Campbell and Texas Tech and what they're doing this year, that whole story started with, he said the exact same thing. He said, we realized, hey, there's really like an uncapped year here where there are no guardrails. We can spend whatever we want to spend to go try to win a championship, really elevate our program right now. We're going to do it. That is exactly, Jerome Tang was like ahead of Texas Tech on that almost. Jerome Tang just didn't execute it nearly as well as Texas Tech did, right? But if you can infuse Tang's attitude throughout the rest of the athletic department about where things are at right now and what you need to do and how you need to resource yourself, you'd be way better off. But people have stepped up. But because Jerome Tang pounds the pavement and goes and creates relationships and is relentless in pursuing the resources that he wants to obtain, I don't see that from the rest of the athletic department right now. Donors have stepped up. My issue is not with donors right now, but it's because of people like Jerome Tang really campaigning their ass off to go get the necessary funds that they feel like they need and frankly do. You can have your issues with how it's been executed. I get it. And then people think about, it's kind of wasteful and it's not. You can have frustrations about that, but you need that attitude within the athletic department. And that's just some of the frustration. I think for the next budget year, the next fiscal year, the amount of money that You're basically just covering with donor dollars the rev share, when this is a time to be getting creative, and hopefully the university will start to help a little bit. But you need to get creative in how you're funding these things. Travis Goff at Kansas went hard after David Booth, their biggest donor, and gets a $300 million donation. You have a donor, at least one, with a higher net worth than David Booth that is out there. Like, you need to be hungry and working these guys to understand in the future we're going to need a lot of this. And that hunger is not, look, I'm not around a DUI as much as you are on a day-to-day basis in Manhattan anymore, but certainly my perception from the outside looking in is that hunger is not there at all. And there's just a lot of complacency with like what the football program is right now. I can live with a bad season every now and then if I knew that everybody was totally busting it, right? If I knew that was the attitude. To me, it's more that this football season and the reaction to it has been kind of a symptom of what I feel like the bigger issue is within the athletic department than it is, fire and brimstone, you lost to Texas Tech and are 4-5.
Yeah, if you're not pushing or forcing the issue with sense of urgency right now, you're getting left behind. I think that's what our fear is across the board. Obviously, we understand there's financial differences between institutions and what some are able to do and some others. We just want the attitude to reflect of what some of those other schools are doing and how they are putting their best foot forward, because what's this going to look like in a couple of years? And you got to be ready for that moment. And if you're just like okay with the status quo, well, status quo, you might think all of that is fine, but like the status quo is going to end up not being good enough because the sport is moving so fast. The athletics is moving so fast. And if you're not moving with it, then that becomes an issue. And I've talked about this, I think, on the show. And so the last thing I would say is like between like Gene Taylor, because he's the face of the athletic department, and Chris Kleiman, because he's the face of the football program. And those guys, we hear them speak often and we hear them opine often on certain aspects of what has changed. I think when they first got into their seats at Kansas State, they were moving with the sport and accepting the changes and embracing the changes and realized it was the cost of winning. At some point in the last year and a half, that felt like that changed. And now they have a little bit more disdain and stubbornness about it in my mind.
I know we got to take a break. I was rewatching the Texas Tech game, the broadcast, and something Jason Benetti said stood out, a guy that I really respect, play-by-play voice for Fox. He said, as they panned to Chris Kleiman, guys, he said, look at Coach Kleiman. Isn't he just a flashback to the coaching industry from 3 years ago? And I'm paraphrasing. And I'm like, that's not a good thing. I mean, it was basically like saying like that's player retention, development, etc., like talking that up. And like that model is outdated now. So, and I think Chris Kleiman has adapted. Obviously, K-State spent a lot of money and resources, etc., but it's not showing on the field. And we can talk about that. And again, some of the concerns that I have in terms of the results. It's a results oriented business, and we can get into that here in a minute.
They adapted quicker and better than others. I'm not going to completely eviscerate them for not understanding
Oklahoma State.
The width game. That's like on the flip side, you could become Oklahoma State and just not win a Big 12 game for 2 years, refuse to pay your players for a while, and now you have a complete hole, and they have to build the entire infrastructure for their next head coach. Like, it's not there.
Maybe that should have been the example I used instead of Iowa State. Like, you want to be doing a home and home with Oklahoma State here in a few years. But even now Chad Weiberg, whose feet were held to the fire and it seems like barely kept his job, he fired Mike Gundy like 3 games into the season. Like they again, urgency. They understand the importance of it and the importance of the moment. Okay. Chiefs fans, you could be on the field with 50 inside GEHA Field for the official coin toss at a Chiefs home game this season. Visit Chiefs.com/GEHA now. Enter to win a chance to be on the field for a once-in-a-lifetime view of the pregame coin toss. Plus, you can score other exclusive prizes. Enter for a chance to win at Chiefs.com/GEHA. GEHA is the proud partner of the Kansas City Chiefs, and we're back in just a moment.
Hey, NFL fans, what's your favorite touchdown? For me, it's the next one. And that's because with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, every touchdown could bring you closer to cashing in. first touchdown scores to anytime touchdown props or the thrill of live in-game betting, every snap is loaded with opportunity. And here's the best part. New customers bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets instantly. So your team hitting pay dirt pays out to you. You download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, use code KCSN. That's code KCSN for new customers to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY to 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. Pass-through of per wager tax may apply in Illinois. Must be 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. The bet must win to receive bonus bets which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, visit dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer.
My name is Terrell Jolly. A lot of people call me TJ, founder and CEO of Integrity Capital Management. So Integrity Capital Management originally started out as a property management firm, but we slowly transitioned to what is described as an incremental development firm that's focused on situational housing. I know most people say affordable, but we believe in creating housing for people that are actually in need and built to the end user. I believe everyone needs a home because when you have home, you have hope. The reality is that when you're building a business, one thing you don't think about is like what a true banking relationship means. And, I had the honor and privilege of meeting Debbie early on in my career when I was just trying to get going. And as a small business, it's really challenging at times because people don't understand the concept or not believe the longevity because you're just getting started. But Debbie was willing to take a chance on me, be patient with me. I almost look at it like a grassroots initiative. She's seen and believe what I'm about. Anybody that's really true about their business and want to get some things done, I would definitely trust hands down Emprise because Deb's team, along with Aaron and Jackie and all the amazing people that work behind the scenes, even from the treasury side, I would say, hey, give them an opportunity because you won't be disappointed and you will actually be in hands that actually somebody care and that will see you from start to finish.
All right, so for the top storyline, I want to this is going to be probably retracing our steps a little bit. Everybody who's listening or watching that just heard everything we did, just bear with us here because this goes on social, right? So I want to make sure that we're covering what truly to me is the top storyline here. Brought to you by our friends at Alenco, by the way, ALENCO home.com for all your home improvement needs. I just want to reiterate, like, this is not a show that we're doing to be like pound the fist, like fire everybody, fire Chris Kleiman because he is 4-5 now this season. Like that's not it at all. Certainly I can speak for myself. That's not it at all. The problem is not enough sense of urgency from the athletic department overall to be doing every single thing you possibly can to best position yourself for the future. And if it's, hey, Chris Kleiman's our guy, let's go make sure that we are working every single big donor that we have. We've got a big fish like David Booth that we could be working for money down the line and trying to secure major gifts. Let's find creative ways to bring in extra revenue. Like I want to see that. Like whoever is leading the charge, whoever the coach is, like that's what I think we want to see here. Because if you don't do that and your expectation, you're like, hey, I'm cool. If we're a 6, 7, 8 win program in 5, 10 years, you won't even have that opportunity to be a 6, 7, 8 win program because you'll be in Oregon State, Washington State land of total irrelevancy. And I just don't think enough people see or feel that full threat right now.
John, I think you said it well. And here are some of the numbers that I mentioned that are concerning to me. And I know you talked more broadly about the athletic department angle, et cetera. I have serious concerns about this football program. And outside of the Big 12 championship season, 6 years now, they've never won more than 8 regular season games in the Kleiman era outside of that 2022 year. And that's the only year they've won 6 Big 12 games or more. You play 9. So they're going to finish this year 5-4 or worse in Big 12 play for the 5th time in 7 seasons, assuming that they don't win out, which I don't see any way they're going to win at Utah. That's concerning. Like you are not hitting a high ceiling. Now, again, this gets to the point of, are you content with 8-4? Are you content with winning 7 to 8 games and going to a bowl? I'm not. I would take a season like this a failure if it meant that next year they went 10-2 and won a Big 12 title. I'd be all in. I can live with a low point of a season if it means that you reach a ceiling the next year. Like, I value the highs more than being average to slightly above average every year. And that's what this program has kind of become, is being average to slightly above average every year. And I know people will pull charts and they'll show, look how hard it is to win 8 games every year, and the consistency of the K-State football program outside of this year. And yes, I can acknowledge that and appreciate it, but at some point it gets old and it gets stale. Look, K-State isn't beating good teams under Chris Kleiman anymore. They're 0-6 against the top 3 teams in the Big 12 standings since 2023. 0-6. They're 1-7 if you expand it to the top 4 teams in the league and include the win at Colorado in 2024. So 1-7 against the top 4 teams in the league since 2023, or 0-6 against the top 3. I anticipate UCF's going to finish with a losing record this year. KU's up in the air, but if they both finish with losing record, guys, out of K-State's 14 Big 12 wins the last 3 seasons, only 4 would have come against teams that finished above 500 overall. Not just in Big 12 play, above 500 overall. If you look at this year, their wins in Big 12 play are against 5-4 KU, 6-2 TCU, 4-4 UCF. All right. In 2024, they beat 6-7 West Virginia, 5-7 KU, 5-7 Cincinnati, 3-9 Oklahoma State, 9-4 Colorado. And in 2023, their best win was 9-4 KU at home in a game that you escaped with in Lawrence. Otherwise, you beat 6-7 UCF, 5-7 TCU, 2-7 or 4-8 Houston. 3-9 Baylor, 7-6 Texas Tech. Like, you're not beating the great teams, the good to great teams in the Big 12. And for that, the reason I bring that up, guys, is because this program isn't at the level then they need to be a Big 12 championship level program, because they can't beat the best teams. So that's a problem. And I, frankly, do not think Chris Kleiman will get this program back to a Big 12 championship type season like we saw in 2022. I don't think it's in the cards. I mean, how are you going to tell me that they're going to go from 5-7 or 6-6 this year to getting to 10 wins? I don't foresee that happening. You never know with the transfer portal and everything that could happen there. But I don't see this getting better in the sense of, getting to 9-10 wins, which is what I want. I expect that. Kansas State fans should expect that. The amount of money invested in the facilities and this team and this coaching staff, etc., you should expect to contend for a Big 12 championship at least one out of every 3 years in this new landscape of the Big 12. And frankly, they haven't. I know you could say last year they contended because they were 7-1 at one point, but they fell off the map at the end of the year. They really haven't seriously contended as you get into November for a Big 12 championship since 2022.
Cool. I will push back just a little bit in saying that, one, I agree with you. I would prefer take your shot, and if it results in, a year where the bottom kind of drops out, that's totally fine. I think they did really, coming off of the Big 12 championship season, with what they did in recruiting, they really did take a big shot, and then they went all in on trying to retain guys who were more talented than what the previous rosters really had been, just in terms of like sheer ability. Like, we're talking Avery Johnson, we're talking Dylan Edwards, your Lincoln Cures, like Garrett Oakley, Jordan Allen. I mean, all these guys that they got from the in-state crop, they actually did a pretty good job executing on that, bringing those guys in. The criticism then becomes, I don't think they coached them hard enough, and that led to some struggles at the beginning of this year, and that's where some of the issues are. But I do think that at least they tried to go with that philosophy, like, hey, we're not going to stand pat and just be this, we're only going to get 3-star kids and coach them up. They went outside of that and got some better talent. It hasn't worked out, and so there have been other issues. So in the coaching staff defense, and that's why I would reiterate again, if the attitude from Kleiman and everybody is, hey, I can still do this, I want to do this in this new environment, like, I'm totally down with it. Let's go hit the portal harder. Let's go hit high school recruiting, whatever the strategy is going to be. If I knew that there was a true hunger there from everybody involved, and Gene was on board with like, hey, all right, fine, I'm going to hit it as hard as I can to fundraise for you and all this stuff. if that synergy was there and that drive and desire was there, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. I don't sense that it is my problem.
I don't either. I think there needs to be an adjustment of some kind, whether it be with the individuals in charge or the attitude in general. I trust them to be honest, I kind of trust them on executing a plan that, like, they're so, like, mission oriented and all of this but I just think that they need that plan. They need that attitude instead of saying our way works. I think a little bit of stubbornness there. I do lean a little bit towards Cole's belief, though, in that I don't think there's another banner year left in Chris Kleiman, personally.
And a lot of that is, again, I think it was such a great call out, Cole, of Jason Benetti saying, hey, doesn't this look like what college football looked like 3 years ago? The sport has changed by miles in 3 years. And you can say, hey, that's not perfectly coinciding with when NIL became a thing, but it does coincide with when NIL became like really what it is now. I mean, we're talking about like really like the last 2, maybe 3 academic years where NIL and the portal completely blew up into what it is now. It has changed dramatically, and there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. If you're a coach that is very accomplished in the old world and it's not your thing and you don't really want to deal with what it is now, dude, more power to you. I understand. I'm not saying I would want to deal with it either, but there are people out there who do and will, and that's what you need. Is you need people not only leading your programs, but leading your athletic departments that totally get it, embrace it, and are all for it and say, let's go, let's do it. Because there's no other way right now. You can't be stuck in the past on this. So
how many teams in a Big 12, and you can say if Kansas State's one of those, has a coach where they said, my coach can win the Big 12 championship? Okay, I know Chris Kleiman has done it before. He did it in 2022. I'm just not sure he's equipped to do it now. I don't know.
Arizona State would say it. Texas Tech would say it.
There are people in the building, and maybe they should think this, that think Chris Kleiman can.
Well, I mean, I think you'd say Utah probably still thinks they go.
Yeah. EAU would say it. State, Texas Tech.
Iowa State, Matt Campbell. I don't know.
Yeah.
Look, I think he's season's rough.
Dude, since Cincinnati still has a pretty. If Cincinnati keeps winning, they got to beat BYU. But I think they could. That game's at Cincinnati.
Houston, with the way they started this year and the ascent of that program, they're probably really.
If Willie Fritz were 10 years younger, he'd be a super hot name on the coaching market.
Absolutely. It's funny that it said Iowa State thinks that and Kansas State doesn't. And this is not to judge anyone in here, because I probably would tend to agree with that. But Matt Campbell has not won one, and Chris Kleiman has.
I would almost say a DUI because Iowa State was in the Big 12 championship last.
Yeah, and now Iowa State could have a worse record than K-State or about similar. So.
And I'm not a Matt Campbell fan necessarily, and this was the pandemic season, but they've been to 2 Big 12 championships since 2020, and Chris Kleiman's made it to 1 and really hasn't threatened any other season of making it to Arlington. So I don't know. Like, I'm not a big proponent on Matt Campbell, and I think he's going to jump for another job this offseason because I think he realizes he's probably hit his ceiling there at Iowa State. But like I got to run, guys, here in a minute, but I would conclude with this. Like, if I'm Gene Taylor, like I want to know how much time Chris Kleiman has left in him at Kansas State. I want to know, what's your timeline? What's your path the coach?
What I will say is like, I almost think the timeline of Gene Taylor is more important first.
Well, that plays a part too. But since Gene Taylor's the AD right now, like, I think he needs to sit down with Chris Kleiman and say, like, what are you thinking? Is 2026? You think it's just one more year?
Yeah, I don't know that.
I got to be honest. If Chris Kleiman were like, I think I want to, and look, I don't know anything about this, so I have no idea what Chris Kleiman's thinking as far as a timeline, or if he's leaning toward anything, or he could have 2 or 3 more years left in it. But if his answer was, I think 2026 is probably going to be my last year. If I'm Gene Taylor, like, I got to have a straight up talk with Chris Kleiman, because Colin Klein's getting hired this offseason. All right. And there has to be a conversation.
Somewhere, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah. You got to be forward thinking here.
No, I fall in line with your thinking.
Yeah.
My belief at this point, right now, to this second, is that I almost think Gene Taylor's closer to being ready for retirement than Chris Kleiman. For one, he's like 10 years older, and we've seen some of the antics and responses from Gene. I don't want to get into the weeds of it in the last few months. It screams a guy that's, like gotten to that point where he doesn't care as much of what people think, right? That's almost people right on the edge of retirement.
Yeah, again, I will just come back to, if Chris Kleiman says, hey, I got a ton of fire left in me, and Gene Taylor says, I got a ton of fire left in me, I can do this for another 5 years, like, let's be as modern and up to date as we can be and as aggressive as we can be with all this stuff. Hey, sign me up. I'm fine with that. But I will need to see that change in demeanor and attitude from everybody, because, and it, not just Gene, the entire athletic department, top down. Now, a lot of that stems from, you're going to take cues from your leader and your leadership, but I just would hope for more. I'm left wanting more on that front right now. I can live with a 4-5 football season if it means everybody is really, really trying. And some of that, as frustrating as basketball has been, there is an element to me where I'm just like, hey, it sucks that it hasn't worked out the last 2 years in basketball, but I know I can sleep well knowing, like, I know Jerome Tang is giving it all he's got, understands what he needs in terms of finances to support it, and is busting his ass to go do it. Like, there's a part of that I can live with. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But I wish more of that attitude were infectious across the department.
You got to be willing to do all parts of your job.
Yeah. And adapt with the times, which have changed dramatically. And once again, I don't hold anything against anybody if they say, hey, man, do you understand what I have to deal with and how much it's changed in the last 3 years? Dude, I don't fully understand it because I don't live it, but I understand it enough to know it's got to suck. I get it. And if you don't want to deal with that, totally fine. I respect what you've done and accomplished in your time at K-State, which has been very good. But someone's got to be in there right now that understands what is necessary. So,
and I get it. I don't think I would want to do it. Not at
hell no.
The 50s and 60s. Yeah.
No. Okay. Thank you to Alenko. Thank you to Holiday. Appreciate Nick Springer behind the scenes. Cole had to bounce just a bit early, but for Cole and DY, I'm John. Thanks for listening to another edition of 3 Mile.